Hello again. Looking for a interesting stream tonight. There's some subjects I wanted to talk about last night that I actually didn't wind up getting to. And I got so exhausted I just had to stop. It was a long day. But that said, there's always tomorrow, right? And tomorrow is today, and here we are. So let's talk about why there are 22 majors. This is a subject that I've always explored in my life. The idea that there's two kinds of measurements in the world. There's the man-made ones, and then there's the natural ones. You know, like for instance, what's an inch? It's a made-up thing, right? Or we all know the silliness that like a yard was based on the length of the nose to the tip of the finger of who was king at the time, and so it changed, right? It wasn't a standard, or all these different standards that we use. And I thought to myself, what of those are natural, right? So one example of that is in astronomy. There's numbers that we use that are natural and that can be counted on. For instance, the number of times we rotate and the amount of times it takes the Earth to go around the Sun once, right? That's a number that's the same, and it's a standard, and that's where we get that 365 from. 365 is not a random number or based on some arbitrary measurement. It's based on a very specific thing, right? Same thing with the months. Why do we cut our year up into 12? We do that because the number of times the moon does its cycle and the number of times we go around the sun is 12, right? So these are obviously basic ideas. And so if you explore that further, you're going to find numbers all over the place in your life. And I've questioned those numbers and have bumped into some very interesting things that I thought would be fun to share with respect to the tarot. So, and actually I shouldn't even put it that way, because it is fun to explore, but it's actually a very serious subject because it's kind of the DNA of tarot. And if you understand this concept that I'm about to share, it really unlocks the language in a way that you can read tarot just by looking at the world, just by observing phenomena, as opposed to strictly using the card version, right? Which is certainly the most practical and useful for certain questions and for individuals and so on. But you can also read your world, right? And I don't think we do that enough. At least I don't. And I have taught myself to do this. And so that said, the idea is, where are these numbers? Where do they come from? And what, right? So you may be aware of sort of the base knowledge, right? There's this idea in very often in secret societies, in institutions of learning, that there are multiple layers of knowledge, right? There's the inner circle that knows the truth told openly. And then there is the next layer, which is the truth told in secret. And then there's the next layer, which is lies told openly. So the idea here is that why are there 22 majors, right? Why are there 22 trumps of the tarot? The other cards kind of make sense. We go through 1 through 10, right? So ace through 10, and then we have the courts and so forth, and maybe There was some idea of gender or polarity, right? So we picked a male and a female, and then we said, okay, well, that's not enough. There's also within the human experience this idea of age, of stages, right? So we have the young and the old, right? So we have these 4 cards that derived basically out of this, the desire to categorize the idea of polarity in our experience, right? So fine. But why 22 majors? So now the first layer of knowledge might be if you've done your homework, or if you've done the reading, or if you studied, or even in conversation, you may have heard that it's based on the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And more specifically, that it's related to the 22 letters, which have certain connections with respect to the planets and signs and things like that, and we're going to talk about that. And so you may say, okay, well, the 22 letters, each letter represents a very specific, it's very much like Greek. Hebrew is a language where each character represents more than just a letter. It represents a number, it represents a picture. It's a different kind of alphabet than say what we might be used to in English, as an example, which is really just a phonetical, representation. So that first layer of knowledge is the idea that, and this is the lie told openly, the 22 majors represent the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, right? And there is truth in that. It's actually not a lie necessarily, but there's a lot more to that, and that's not enough. Like, if you just take that for the answer, you're missing 90% of the iceberg. So, and then you could ask the question, okay, well, if there's 22 majors because there's 22 letters of the alphabet, fine, but then why are there 22 letters of the alphabet? Is it arbitrary? In English, we have 26. We separated some sounds that other languages don't, like I and J, and some other things that, are kind of unique to the way that we decided to separate our letters. Perhaps there was something deeper to that, but either way, the Hebrew language contains 22 letters, and those letters each have a correspondence in the tarot related to either the 3 mother letters, which are the elements, the primary elements, fire, water, air. And those 3 combined create all of existence in the form of earth, right? So the 3 mother letters are the 3 elements. Then you have the next stage, which is the 7 letters that represent the original planets. The sun in the center and the 6 planets. The sun and moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Okay, that's the 7. And each letter is representative of one of those planets. And then finally, the 12 remaining letters are the zodiacal houses, or the constellations, the sun signs, right? The house and or the ruler of that house, depending upon how you look at that. Because it's really it's ultimately a position, but what we're also talking about is the sign itself. But so, fine. So, okay, so that's 22. All right, so, but now, is that arbitrarily why they chose, because that's still arbitrary, is that why they chose 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet? It's like the creators of the alphabet, did they say, okay, well, there's these 3 elements, and there's these 7 planets, and there's 12 signs? No, of course not. In fact, they weren't even the same signs back then, and, the sun and moon were counted as planets and all these things. Oh, hey, thanks for stopping into the stream. And so 22 as the number of letters of the alphabet and or the number of numbers of the major arcana is still arbitrary if we consider it from that respect, right? And so my question here is the idea of, are those 22, does that come from somewhere else? Like, where does that number come from? Or is it truly just an arbitrary number? Because again, 365 is a specific number of how many times the Earth does that, and the amount of time it takes it to go once around the sun. That's a hard number, 365. The number of of months is not an arbitrary number. It's based on the number of times the moon goes through a cycle in the time it takes the Earth to go around the sun, right? So that's a hard number, 12. 22, is that an arbitrary number? Turns out it's not. And here's the proof. If you take a square, it has a certain amount of math involved in it that we can count, right? Like you can count the number of edges, the number of sides, things like that. Number of points. So let's consider that for a moment. Pardon my crude diagram. I was using my mouse to draw on paint. But we have this diagram here, and what I've drawn here is a cube, right? And inside of this cube is these three directions, right? Basically, in the beginning there was the point, and then 2 points makes the line, 3 points makes the surface, and now the 4 points are the first stage of three-dimensional space, right? Or three-dimensional object. And that's represented by the three directions that that object can turn. Basically, the number of right angles from any individual point. But that's, let's just keep it simple. So we have the up and down. We have the left, right. We have side to side, and this is a three-dimension, right? These are the three directions. Any other direction you go won't be in a right angle. This is it. There's only three. And now if you look at where these points touch, it makes a cube, right? The two in the front and the back, the two on the sides, the two on the top. It makes a cube. We all drew these in second grade, right? We take our little squares and we overlap them in the middle, and then we connect the lines, and we have the cube, right? So we have this cube. Great. Now if we take this shape that I drew up here, we can see how that would fit in this cube, right? Each face is touching another face, right? The front to back, side to side, up and down. Now, so that's the three. There are the three directions, okay? The three mother letters, the three elements, fire, water, air. What they make the cube, Earth. But we're not there yet. Three. Now, it's created this cube. In the center is the point where that emanated from. That's the sun. And then you have these 6 faces of the cube, which are the planets. So you have the sun and the planets. 7, right? We have 7 planets. 12. Where do we get 12? Well, if we look at this cube now and we count the edges, basically where the planets meet, we see at those points, we see 12. There's 12 edges. Okay? (22). Right. So what we're referring to here is the concept of the one being the initial intelligence, becoming self-aware through that process, time-space being created using this framework of the three directions, and in that 22 was born. Right. So this is not an arbitrary number. This number rather is the actual holographic representation of the foundational lattice that all reality is built on, and so those 22 letters therefore actually become archetypal points of reference for our subconscious to connect to that place, to that truth. And so when we're attempting to view using means outside of our normal senses, concepts that are related to our experience in the world. Hey, Miss Kane, good to see you. Thanks for popping back in. That's why these 22 work as well as they do. Absolutely. I'm going to start the list up probably in about 5 or so minutes, and your name is on the list, and so is Manor. And so the number 22 is not an accident. It's not an arbitrary number of cards that was just chosen by some Italian family in the 1400s. It goes back way further than that. Well earlier than our current understanding of when civilization began to explore these subjects, because what we're really talking about is very, very basic beginning ideas of the elemental pieces of the universe and how we interface with it, how we navigate it. And, we have the ancients to thank for a lot of the way that we think today and don't even realize it, right? Like, we all very intrinsically understand the idea of the elements. And the elements themselves, for an example, these things are more than just symbols in the tarot. These are the building blocks of our realities. That includes our bodies. It includes the world that we live in from a physical perspective, right? The aces are the idea of the energy at its core level before it manifests in the world through the page or the princess, right? Now, there's another couple of things I want to point out about these that we should really take to heart here, okay? Because we all know our basics, right? We know that they represent the elements. But what about, I'm looking for a very bright red orange card. It should be pretty easy to find if I just look for the color. So we know they represent the elements, and so if we've done our homework, we know that the cup is water, right, and the wand fire, so on, sword air. But also, we consider what that means from an experiential and from the level of creation. What we have is the states of matter. Solid, liquid, gas, plasma, right? We have the 4 seasons. We have the 4 directions. We have the fourfold name of God, the Yehovah, the Yahweh, the fourfold name, the Tetragrammaton. So that said, there's so many symbol systems that can be laid on this idea of the elements, right? So when you're out there looking at the world, you can understand that the symbol systems that we use for our language to interface with our reality, blue, purple, brown, right? Wood, paper, plastic, these are all symbol systems that we use to interface with our reality. And when we're trying to look into the past or future, or to extend our bubble of perception temporally, we can't use those same words. They don't work, right? You can't use the language of here and now to look into the future. So instead, we have to go more basic than that. We have to shed the sort of human way to communicate, and we have to start soul talking. And the way that we do that is through the process of understanding these basic concepts. What is love? 2. It's the number 2. The desire to connect. Love is a line. 2 dots connected make a line. That's love, right? And so you can't go in thinking about 2 people embracing. You can't think about kissing. You can't think about the human experience of love, because it's much deeper and more powerful than that. That's just a small sliver of what love means, this experience we have as people. So this language that we're talking about here, don't let all the math scare you. All we're talking about with the 22 letters is that there are directions that we can turn, and that is the framework and the limit by which our physical reality is based. And so it's really just the ancients recognizing there is an archetypal higher world that we don't access, that provides the framework, provides the lattice that we build our world on. And if we use the right language, we actually have the power to communicate with that and to impose our will on it so that will manifests here. So what does the tarot do for us? Well, what it does is it gives us a glimpse at the shape of that lattice, because once we know that shape, we're in a position to maybe navigate it in a way that we come out with what we want or need. So otherwise, we're just literally walking around with our, and kind of deciding through this meat bag we call a brain, that all it knows how to do is regurgitate symbols, right? We learn words, we process them. Some of us are good at words, some of us are bad. That doesn't make communication happen. How communication happens is the desire for that to occur. There has to be a love for communication to take place, but we don't do that. We walk around in our state of ego, which is the separate. It's the opposite of love. It's one. It's I don't need a line. I'm on my own. One does not allow for communication to happen. Rather, it's the inflation of the ego. It's the idea of spitting out and being heard, rather than let's be together and be greater because of it, right? So the lesson here is that the 22 major cards are in that outer knowledge, the lie told openly. Oh, it's just the letters of the Hebrew alphabet. There's 22 letters, that's what it means. Well, the inner knowledge is that those 22 letters are actually representative of the planets, the elements, and the signs, right? And again, we've got that represented here in the this section right here. Okay. But then there's that third layer of secret knowledge that only the priests would hold, or the rabbis, and they wouldn't share it with even the people inside of their circle. They had an inner circle. That was the reason that there's 3 elements in our system. The reason that we chose 7 planets and 12 signs is because of this other truth, the greater truth. This one here, this one here. Physical reality based on the 3 directions, making 6 plus the sun is 7 with the 12 edges. And that's the 22 letters of the alphabet, the 22 cards of the majors, and it is the basis for all reality. Now, okay, fine, Michael, but what about the 10? We have 22 majors. Why are there 10 number cards? Why didn't we do 8? Why didn't we do 11? 8 does appear, if you noticed. The astute listener will pay attention to that. We've done the edges, we've done the faces, but what about the points? There's 8 points. 8 is this apparently holy number, and what does that 8 represent? We'll talk about that maybe another time, because it is important. So where does that come from? Why do we have 10 digits then, right? Well, the 10 digits come from actually a very beautiful place. And so let's explore that really quickly before I get into doing some readings. What we have here is the idea of 3-dimensional reality, the world that we live in, the pentacle, the ace, and the page is comprised of the number 4, right? We have the first, second, and third point geometrically create a surface, right? But now nothing can exist. It's only 2D. Nothing can live here. But if we add that 4th point, what that 4th point creates is a 3-dimensional object. So 3D finally exists because of 4. Okay, fine, but Michael, how does 4 become 10? Like, we're talking about, what the question is why are there 10 of the number cards? Why not 8? Why not 9? Why not 11? 11's a nice, pretty, holy number. Why couldn't we have put 11? Here's why. Because 4 is actually representative of the basic shape of the lattice that we talked about, which is a cube, is derived from this particular shape right here, right? And so what we're going to do is we're just going to, like, very quickly connect all the dots. Okay? And by connecting all these dots, what we're going to see is we're going to see this shape emerge, right? And what the shape that we're looking at here is 1/2 of all platonic solids mathematically. But if you notice, the 4, 3, 2, 1 here equals 10, right? So we have the 10 smalls that are the little pieces that actually make up the cube. And that cube is the 22 majors, which is the actual physical reality, right? And so, and now this was, thank you so much for subscribing. I appreciate that. And I'll be doing readings in just a moment. And if you'd like to participate, I'll make sure your name gets on the list. And welcome. We talked about these different circles. There's the inner circle where the truth is spoken openly. The next circle, the truth is spoken in secret. And then there's the outer one, right? So what we're told is it's the letters. That's the outer one. Well, here is the inner secret, but not the inner secret. It's the Kabbalistic tree of life. The Kabbalistic tree of life is one example of a symbol that is utilized to teach multiple versions of knowledge in different ways. There's so many bodies of knowledge in that one symbol. And what it really is at the end of the day, no matter how you stretch it, it's a snapshot of your existence and the path that you take and how that looks holographically. That's what it is at the end of the day. But if you notice on the back of, for instance, the Thoth Tarot deck, the Crowley's Thoth deck, we have this cross, right? And it's got this like kind of these petal looking things, and then inside of that there's another smaller cross, and then there's a red rose in there, and inside that red rose, doesn't print very well on the smaller decks, maybe here you can see it, is a white dot, okay? And that white dot is important. It's inside of this little flower. That's the one, that little monad that get the sun, that gives birth to the 6 sides, to the 12 edges, the whole thing, right? And so we have, it all is derived from that one monad. And now, if we unfold the cube, right? Those of us who remember and have done it as kids, right? If you take your cube and unfold it, you basically get this, right? And it folds up into a box. And so if you unfold a box, you get this shape, right? And so where do we just see that shape? This shape of this box unfolded, this kind of cross figure, is visible all over Rosicrucian, all over Hermetic, all over esoteric symbol systems, right? And so this knowledge, is that the wrong way? There we go, that's the right wheel. This knowledge is accessible to everyone. It just depends upon what level of knowledge that you accept. Do you take that outer edge and go, okay, it's the letters and that's all it means? Or do you go, okay, well, it's actually the Kabbalistic tree of life? Well, it turns out it's way deeper than that. It's actually the creation of physical matter. It's the lattice by which all reality exists. And this tool gives us the ability to communicate with the programmer that allows that lattice to be manipulated in order to create manifest reality through our will. So it's kind of a cool, a powerful tool and a cool way to look at the world, even without the deck, when you start to see the elemental play within the universe, okay? It's really, really powerful stuff if you let yourself have it. Okay, so let's start the list going. I appreciate everyone letting me talk for a minute. I wanted to kind of just get some things out that I didn't yesterday. We have a couple of topics that we're going to be talking about related to the karmic silhouette, basically the period of time that we're in right now with the Nine of Pentacles and the Hermit and how that affects us. And everyone individually who wants to participate, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get your card, your birth card, and apply it to this, so everyone will have their own personal message. It's a lot of fun. It works really well. It's free. I don't charge for that. And you get what it does do, though, it gives you a really good snapshot of how to navigate the coming period. And very soon, the 12th, we're going to be moving into this new period of the 10 of Pentacles and how we can navigate that. Jackie, hello. Thanks for popping in on the stream. Okay, so we're going to be doing that as well. And some other fun stuff. If you have pets, pay attention. We got something going on today that you're going to want to hear. How to make friends with Deacons. The Deacons are the cards that are related to the 36 sections of the decade in astrology. That's a really powerful thing. And then the Spotlight deck, which we're going to be spotlighting the Surrealist tarot. Let me just actually give you one quick little, so you can see what we're in for. Okay, that's the Page of Wand. Okay, that's what we're in for with this deck. All right, and so that's going to be a lot of fun. That said, let me get the list going real quick. I usually put about 4 people on there, maybe 5 if we fill up fast, and then jump to the topics. We'll go back and forth. So, as of right now, if you could just let me know that you're still in the room, I'm going to start naming people in order. First, we're going to have Manor. Miss King. Thank you for coming back. I recognize that you've been here before, and I appreciate that. Pavia. Jackie. Okay. So this is the order as of right now. Okay, is everyone accounted for? And if you don't answer, I'll assume you popped into another stream, and I'll keep your name, but I'm just going to keep banging it to the end of the list, okay? So if you're not here, your name is going to be popped to the end of the list, and then eventually it'll drop off if you don't pop back in. Otherwise, this is the list as it stands right now. Otherwise, the way that I typically do this is I provide a personal message at no charge. And how that works is that I use the Deacon system, which is basically the ancients. They cut the sky up into many different sections, right? One of the sections they cut it up into is 12, and that gives us the signs. But another way that they would cut it up also was into 10-degree sections, and there's 36 of those. Okay, and the 36 sections are called the Deacons, or the decade. 10 meaning deca, right? And so we get the Deacons, or the decade. Each one of these 10 sections is represented by a small card. And that is your birth card. That's the card you're born with. It does not change throughout your life. And that card, very much like your sun sign. So if, for instance, I was born December 16, that allows me to say I'm a Sagittarius. But I'm also the 10 of Wand. And if you look at here, there's some other correspondence as well. We have Saturn in Sagittarius, right? So there's a couple of ways that can be read. It's not just, oh, I'm a Sagittarius. No, I'm a Sagittarius with Saturn energy, right? And I also carry the energy of the 10 of Wand. So what we're going to do is find your birth card and apply that to the period of time that we're in right now. Same process. We go to the wheel. And then we're going to use this to look at the period of time that we're in right now. And take that card and apply it along with your birth card. And that's going to give us a personal message that's unique to everyone. That also is a very good way to take a look at and a snapshot of the coming period of time ending on the 20, or is it to the 12th? The 12th. Let's just verify that. I believe it's the 12th. Yes. Okay, and so we move into the new period on the 12th, right? Now, so first, all I would need to make that happen, I'm going to pop the wheel up again, and I'll leave it up for a sec for those who want to look. But if you're on a small device or you can't see it for whatever reason, just put in the chat your month and day. I don't need the year, but the month and the day of your birth, and I'll be able to locate your birth card quickly, and then we can continue the process. Okay, so that goes for Manor, Miss King, Bhavya, Jackie. Either put in your month and day, And if you could type the month, because the dating system is different in different countries, and so 3/4 can either be March 4th or April 3rd, and so if you can help me out with that. So just plug in your month and day, and we'll go from there. And in the meantime, okay, September 7th, and let me pop the wheel up. In the meantime, I'm going to make some tea. I'm going to microwave, so don't worry. I'm not going to boil water and make you wait. But I need about 5 minutes to just heat my tea up, okay? So I'll be back in like 5 minutes. I just have to put some couple tea bags, throw it in the microwave, and I'll be right back. And then we'll go through. Okay, great. So we have. Okay, great. All right. So I'll see you guys in just a moment. I'm gonna keep the wheel up, and I encourage you to take a look at it just for a couple minutes, just while I'm doing the tea here. Each color is a month. Look at the different elements, right? And which months are what element. Just kind of look at this for a moment and consider the implications of what you're looking at. And I'm going to be back in just a moment once I'm done with my tea. I'll leave this up. Alrighty, I appreciate that. Tea's done, nice and dark. Occasionally I do milk tea, but I'm a big fan of black tea, so. Alrighty. Pariti, hello. Thank you so much for subscribing. I really appreciate that, and thank you for participating. Actually, just getting started right now with readings, and so you came at a good time. And what I'll do is I'll put you, if you're interested, on the list, and you will be the final person on the list for now, and I'll close it out. Pretty, okay, and okay, list closed. Hang on. Opening later. Okay. Okay, great. So, I'm gonna have to knock that down right there. Okay. All right. So, let's begin. Manor. Let's take a look here. And we'll start getting cards out. Manor, I don't see you. Okay. Miss King. February 6th. Awesome. Okay, so Miss King, February 6th. Now, okay, so February 6. That is the Six of Sword. The Six of Sword. And, you know, people ask you what your sun sign is, and you tell them Aquarius. But now you can also tell them you are Mercury in Aquarius. Six of Sword, Mercury in Aquarius, right? Okay. So let's get that in there. Six of Sword. Now, the Six of Sword energy, there's a couple of ways to read this card. And a lot of it depends upon the placement, you know, the circumstance that you're looking into at that moment. And what we're looking into is your birth card, right? And so in this circumstance, you see a family. They've gathered their goods in the boat and they're off to travel, right? There's a few implications here. The idea is that there's this feeling I've always gotten with this card that it's not necessarily an equally confident situation, right? It's like the people in the boat, the wife and the child, are going along with the husband. Like there's this idea that they're sort of doing what needs to be done. But there's a solemn nature about the fact that she's cloaked and he isn't. Clearly, she's not cloaked due to weather. Look at the man and what he's wearing. She's cloaked due to shame or fear, right? And then you have the guy that's steering the boat that's frankly doing what has to be done. So it was a scary thing. Whatever occurred that brought to this point was something that wasn't per se in his control necessarily. Okay? But he's saying, all right, I got to do this. Let's go do this. And so this refers to, it can be something as simple as like traveling for a trade show all the way up to leaving your job and traveling and or moving to go do something on your own that's kind of into some unknown or some scary kind of thing. Now, another way to interpret the card is to look at the idea of the sword and what that represents. Right? The sword typically represents mental energy, and it's the idea of the mind and the mind's effect on our decisions. Now, we're in the period right now of the Nine of Pentacle, and the Nine of Pentacle is the place of the reward of doing the work. Meaning that there was a certain point that you had to sort of step up and do something and get something done, and you either did or you didn't. People were depending on it. You got kind of busy, and you were in this position to be able to either like get done what you needed to, or kind of let that falter. If you allowed the work and got that done, the Nine of Pentacle is the card of almost like an ecstatic bliss, like a lifting, and she's just in her little world with her bird, right? And life's good. However, if you weren't able to do the work, the punishment is the disappointment, the shame of knowing that you missed the opportunity, all the kind of bad stuff that comes to us. And the Hermit is this idea of this not being a bad time to go inward, some introspection about that process. So in your particular case, the story here, the end game, with respect to your birth card and the period of time we're in, up until about the 12th of this month, is the idea that you might be put in a position sort of mentally where you're feeling like something's not working, and you're going to have to sort of go elsewhere. Like you're going to have to, you're not being heard where you are, and so you are going to have to maybe like stop the argument and not pursue it any further, or to like take some steps to sort of move from the situation. And the introspective part, as far as the position that we're in right now, with the Hermit combined with that 9, is the idea that there is an energy of this being an alone thing. Like, and obviously the card has a couple people on it, but that's not what's relevant here. The energy here is that you're in this boat by yourself, and so. However, the reward of getting through that, and here's an important thing to remember, please remember this, no matter what we're reading about or otherwise. You have to be able to find the strength to work through those times where you don't have the motivation you want. The person that usually builds you up isn't available, or you're tired but know that something needs to get done, or it's not as exciting as it used to be. There's always these moments where you have to kind of work through not being motivated, work through not being energetic. And if you're able to do that, right, we call working through fear courage. We have to apply that to other parts of our life. We have to work through feeling empty, like it's not getting done, even though we know we're putting the work in and we don't see the result. That's okay, it will come. And sometimes it takes taking some steps that are scary. So that's kind of where I feel you are right now in respect to the period of time that we're in and your birth card. Okay. So Jeannie, how's it going? Good to see you. Absolutely. I'm going to be opening up the list here in a little bit. We just got started. So Miss King, I'm just going to start right there and ask you, do you have any questions or any particular feedback with respect to that you want to share, and or if that kind of satisfies, then we can move to the next. And certainly anyone who is interested in participating in the stream is entitled to a free personal message. I try to honor that as much as I can. If the stream ends, then I'll even do them in the comment section. But if there's any particular question or circumstance in your life that you need some insight on, there's a couple of different spreads that I do that are very effective for certain kinds of questions, and we might determine the best route based on the question or the thing that we're looking into. And if we find that it's something that might be a little personal, we can kind of do it later, or privately, right? But that said, though, if there's any particular event coming up that's relevant, you think, to the Six of Swords in your life, like what's going on specific to that, that's something we can explore as well. Maybe even later as the stream goes on, if there's time, we can circle back and maybe touch on that. Can we take a moment to just appreciate a really good tea? I'm a card-carrying coffee addict. I drink too much, too often. And every once in a while, I drink tea. And whenever I do, I think to myself, why don't I drink more tea? It's so much cheaper. It's so much better for you. And I really enjoy it. I really do. Sorry about that. Interlude. Okay, so... And again, if there's any additional insight you want on that, let me know, and I'll be happy to kind of circle back if we have time later. Okay, so let's jump to the list here. So I think, Bhavya, I believe you're next. You know, I've heard that, and I have no reason to think that that's not true, right? That there's obviously antioxidant properties. You know, that's the buzzword we hear all the time, but I know that there's properties related to tea. Here's an important part that I think is that we miss about tea. The closer something is to being alive, the better it is for you. The further away from that, the worse it is, right? And so clearly everything we're supposed to be putting in our bodies used to be alive. All right, agreed? And if it didn't used to be alive, we shouldn't be putting it in our bodies, right? That's number one. So let's just start there. But there's this other idea too. The further away from death, the worse it is for us, right? So we take a piece of meat that died yesterday, that's going to be the freshest steak you ever ate in your life. Because most of the crap that we eat is 2, 3, 4 weeks old, maybe more, who knows. Some of it's fresher, but right? Then you have process too, where we take it and then we chop it up and turn it into other stuff and mix chemicals and extract things and add things and take it through the alchemical process, like we're making the Philosopher's Stone when all we're trying to do is make a Salisbury steak. Like, think about what we're left with. Like, it's not even an organic product anymore. So tea is a leaf that dried. They took a leaf and they let it dry. So, you know, you don't get kind of further from this processed nonsense of just died and we let it dry and that's it. I mean, so, you know. Okay, so let's take a look here at the chat. Is there something I need to do? My spirit guides want me to know there's a serious message. Okay, yeah, okay. Getting that based on the boat you showed. Well, that's a decent way to look at that. Anytime, and this is important, I'm glad you brought that up because it's a nice little sort of tarot lesson moment. Educational interlude. So whenever you see a vehicle, pay attention to what it's doing. Especially if it's alive, right? Like a horse or something. But anytime there's a vehicle, pay attention to what it's doing. Is it moving? Is it coming or going? Why is it moving? All those things matter. So that's a very relevant observation that you made, that the boat moving, first of all, motion through water. Water is an emotional element. It's the element that is related to, and it's the thing that allows movement to happen. Now, of course, wind blows, but wind blowing against a rock does nothing. But a wet rock can be formed, and right, and can be moved by air. So movement occurs because water allows that to happen. So the fact that it's moving in water is even more indicative of that idea, as opposed to, say, a vehicle that's moving on land. That's still moving, but not as much as water, right? So that's a very astute observation, and it's one that I think not only that, but the fact that you also kind of felt it from a karmic level is something to pay attention to. Yes, and you were correct about water and emotion. I've always felt that too. I think that's a very natural way to think about it. Different from spirit, that's the wand. So, and what we can do, I do want to circle back to it. I can't guarantee we'll be able to based on how the stream goes tonight, but if not, poke me somehow, whether it's a text message or an email or some way that I can get back to you, and we can circle back and figure some time, or whether you jump in on another stream, that we can address that, because it is relevant. It is important. Okay, so Bhavya, I believe, is next on the list. So let's take your name off the bottom. Okay. Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. Thank you for participating. And thank you for, I take this seriously. I've been doing this for almost 40 years, and it's important to me that I take it seriously and do the work, and I do it honestly. But it doesn't hurt when I know the other side is also doing that, and you paid attention, and that matters. So thank you for that. So, okay. Bhavya, let's take a look at your birthday. I believe you were one that put your birthday. Yep, it was a Sunday. How cool. I'm a Thursday baby. Okay, September 19th. September 19th. Okay. Ooh, it's coming up. It's coming up. We got a birthday coming, people. Okay. September 19th. Okay. Where are we? There we go. 10 of Pentacles. September 19, 10 of Pentacles. Which is the energy we're going to be moving into right now, right? Oh, and Jackie, September 7. Seriously? So we got a birthday in the house, and we have a birthday coming up in a couple of days? Let's take a look at this here for a minute now. So, just to be clear, Bobby, you have a birthday coming up in a couple of days, and it looks like Jackie has a birthday today, right? Oh, happy birthday. How great. And now I'm only 2:26 a.m. in my time. I'm in the eastern part of the United States. And so your birthday just passed by a couple of days. So that said, actually, interestingly, I do birthday readings. I have one posted on the channel. I do one every day for if today's your birthday. And so the birthday one for the 7th is up right now. But I'd be happy to do a reading for you for your birthday here personally right now. Like after Bhavya, when it's your turn. So no problem. That's so great. And thank you for joining. Okay, so Bhavya, then we're looking at the 10 of Pentacles, which is interesting for everybody else too, for a different reason, which is that we're about to enter this period of time. We're in the period of the 9 of Pentacles, and we're about to enter the 10 of Pentacles on the 12th of this month. Okay? Where's that sword? There it is. Okay, great. So we're moving from the 9 to the 10. Anytime you see a 10, it's the completion of the element. Astrologically, it represents all 3 of the signs of that element. So this represents all 3 of the earth signs. And if we look at the wheel here, it's a great way to kind of, at a glance, find those. The symbol for earth is a downward pointed triangle with a line through it. So if we look through the middle of the wheel here, we'll see all those triangle symbols. Some of them up, some of them down, some with lines, some not. We're looking for the downward pointing triangle with a line through it. That is the earth signs, right? So we have Virgo, we have Capricorn, we have Taurus. Now the period of time we're looking at here with respect to the tarot 10 of Pentacles is not just Virgo energy, it's Mercury in Virgo energy. Okay? Mercury in Virgo is very different than strictly Virgo, right? Now, if Virgo is picky, if Virgo is a little harder to please than others, the Mercury in Virgo is mentally judgy, as opposed to emotionally or physically. It's a mental activity. That's the kind of it's interesting too, because it's twofold. You have the energy of liking exactness. All right, now here's the 10 of Pentacles. All right, let's get that let's get that lined up. Wait, it's not quite even. Okay, that could be straighter. All right, what about that? Let me move it back. Wait, perfect. Wait, no, hang on. Okay, there it is, right? So it's that, but now imagine that from a mental perspective with respect to how you communicate. And so that is one of the energies. But the other energy, which is kind of conflicting, is there's typically an idea, a sense of letting them have it. Like letting it go. So it bothers you inside, but on the outside, you don't want to like damage the joy. You don't want to sort of like stir up the emotion, and you want to kind of keep things peaceful, so you let them have it. But internally, it bugs you, right? That's one kind of idea there. But the beauty of the 10 is the idea, in this case with the pentacle, is the idea of the wheel of time, and how there's it, and it's depicted quite beautifully in the card. There's a little child on the bottom right, kind of poking out behind the mom, that's stopping and talking with that other gentleman there, and then you have this older person sitting in the chair. There's a lot of bounty with respect to the clothing and the stuff in the background. Is it you? That's great. Yeah, there you go. Oh, Artie, how's it going? So, and you know, clearly this is a nice image with the arches and everything else. Also, it represents the Kabbalistic tree of life with respect to the pentacle energy, the earth energy, the Malkuth, the dangle on the pendulum, the pendant of the tree. So that said, the card is always good. Very rarely does the card have a negative connotation. It's usually a very good card of abundance, and more important than that, it's the completion of the physical, right? It's sort of like the ideal. Not a bad card to have in your birth, spot, because what it also represents is this idea that, like, you can, physically, you're not going to have issues in life. Like, of the problems that you're going to wind up bumping into, that you have to navigate, and you use your tools, your mental, your physical, your emotional tools. The physical tools are going to work easy for you. They're going to work well. They're going to allow you to navigate the situations that require physicality well. And that also includes how you come off to people physically. Now when you take this in the period of the 9 is the reward of doing the work. The 10 is this woman 30 years later, and things are great because of that, right? But the 9 is this period of time where it's the rest that comes with knowing that you've done what you were supposed to, and that you were held accountable, but you showed up, and so these are the rest that comes with that is the 9, right? So when you combine this basically as a sentence, as your period of time that we're in right now, combined with that hermit energy, is the idea that this is not a bad time for you to, by yourself, understand this cycle, understand where you are in this process, and make sure that your goal should always be to maintain that calm. There are times where that's not what needs to be done. There's times where where calm's not the answer, and you need to take care of business. But that's not your karmic kind of thing. Your silhouette. When you were born, a light came down from the higher into this singularity, and through that was then reflected out into our world. And that reflection cast a shadow, and that shadow has a shape, right? And the shape of that moment of your birth is the 10. And so at this period of time, it's important for you to don't fight that process. We all go through our stages, and that's okay. If you're, when somebody passes, everyone shifts up one, and we're not always ready for that, right? Let that go and maintain calm. And if you do that, the reward is enlightenment. It's like a blissful ecstasy that comes from that rest. Imagine being so tired and then being offered sleep. You can't beat that. Nakat, thank you so much for popping in. I appreciate that. So I hope that was insightful. I mean, I would say that for most of us, this period that we're in right now is a time of introspection. It's kind of like it's a time for us to do a little reflecting, because we have an opportunity here to maybe say, wait a minute, do I believe this? Do I like this? Why do I believe or like that? Like, where am I? And these type, it's not a bad time to do that during this period, because the energy that we're moving into is one that we're going to be relied upon to be an anchor, right? The Ten of Pentacle, because of all these great qualities that I talked about, puts us in a position of being imposed upon by those in need that we love, and we need to be prepared for that coming, right? So, and if you see any value in what I'm doing, all I ask at the minimum, please to give the video a like and consider a comment. Comments make a huge difference. Most people are looking at me right now because a computer put me in front of you, right? And the computer reads the comments. So it does matter. It really does. It can even just be thank you so much, I appreciate it, or wow, you suck, and it didn't work. It makes a big difference, and I appreciate that. Now, where are we now? Somebody's birthday. Okay, so now here's the interesting thing. Since today's your birthday, the period of time that we're in right now is also your birth card, which is the Nine of Pentacles. So first of all, Nine of Pentacles, not a bad card, right? Let's see here. Okay. Alrighty. Sajini, actually, yeah, no, I haven't gotten there yet. I'm still working through the current list. And the final person on the list is going to be, at least this current one, and then I'm going to be starting up probably in about maybe 15 or 20 minutes after that. Next list, and you're on that. There's some people that popped in after. Nat Cat. Kendra. You, Sajini, will be on that list, right? So if you, to be technical, we're looking at maybe half an hour. Probably, yeah, about 30 minutes. Okay, and Jackie, let's pop this out. Okay, now, so I'm not going to do the normal reading for you today because it's today's card is your birth card. So that's not fair. All right. So what I'm going to do instead is let's take a look at if you have a specific question, and what I'll do is provide you with a reading that I would normally charge for. Okay. So if there's a particular question or something specific that you'd want to look into. Okay, why do I keep thinking the person in my mind? Well, let's find out. I'm not going to use Thoth for that. I'm going to use a different deck. So, the deck I'm going to be using is the Tarot of the Abyss by Anna Torian. Let's give her some love real quick, because this person requires notoriety. She deserves it. Because really, this deck is something else. I mean, people in the tarot community know her because they're like, I'm lucky I got my hands on one. Tarot of the Abyss. And, sorry. Okay. Okay. This deck is really something you're about to see. So, now what she's done here is quite beautiful. It's a black and white deck, which right away I was a little skeptical, right? I'm sure I'm not the only one. Color is an important component for accessing right brain stuff for me, or at least I thought so. Turns out it's not that important. Okay. Anybody who likes this deck right here, it's called Tarot of the Abyss by Anna Torian. Please go to her website and give her your money. And I'm not sponsored by this person, or I have never spoken to them, interacted with them. I caught a cool video of her drawing one of her cards on her channel once, which was pretty cool. But give this person love. Wait till you see this deck. And take it from somebody reading cards for 40 years that teaches the esoteric tradition. And I'm very strict about it being the right information. And I love this deck. Absolutely adore it. So, that said, let's begin. So your question was related to maybe some of them might be Tim Burton. One that's really a Tim Burton vibe would be Deviant Moon. Different deck though. Okay, why do you keep thinking of this person? Okay, yes, let's find out. Okay. Good question. I like why, because tarot is especially good at the 5 W's. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. And also, the reason those are good is because they require a response other than yes or no. And so it forces you to get to the heart of the question. Okay. For their wisdom. For that strength. It's that thing that you see when you look at them. It's kind of like it's not always easy to pinpoint the thing, but there's an inner strength in them that draws you. There's like something that you feel like you could anchor to. And there's also an idea of like a paternal thing going on. %. Here's the 9 of Pentacles, which is your card. This is your birth card, right? We just determined that. Actually, did I not put that up there yet? No, I didn't. Yeah, hang on. Sorry. 9 of Pentacles. Okay. Okay. So now, this is the way I'm going to read that. Nine of Pentacles comes up in a reading about a person whose birthday is the 9 of Pentacles. Means that card represents them in this reading. I mean, you have to kind of like stretch your brain to not So I'm just going to go there. I'm not going to fight that sensation. And so this is you, this is them. In between. The masks that we wear. Right? There's this idea here of, and remember that it's a sword, okay? There's an idea here of the, who you are when you're not around them and who you are when you're with them, right? So what this is also telling me is that there's this idea that you care a lot about how they feel, to the degree that you actually change masks when you're in front of them, right? There's not this idea of the, I'm just going to kind of be myself. There's kind of like a little fear associated with that, you know? Like there's this little kind of anxiety that motivates you doing that, because otherwise why would you do that? Okay. Well, I mean, initially the first vibe I got is that there's a sense of inner strength, and there's also an idea of a like a resourcefulness that they put themselves out for, like they want to be known for that, right? And so when you purposely are doing that, you're going to you're going to be noticed for that kind of thing. But so the as far as the King of Pentacle, the element is earth, and the element of earth in this case, especially with the king, is the idea of reliability. There's like somebody who does what they say they're going to do, somebody that you can count on, somebody that's not very easy to manipulate, right? They're kind of unmovable, hard to move, can be a bit stubborn, kind of hard to convince of things once they have their mind set on something. Even if they're wrong, it can be maybe hard to kind of wrangle them in, to the degree that you can at least be heard. So there are times that there's a stubborn nature in that person also. But the why, the question here too is why are they popping in your head? There's a part of you that believes that there's something you can gain from them, and the thing that you can gain from them is a calm, they make you feel good. Like there's something about them that is popping in your head that makes you feel good. Now that doesn't mean necessarily that like there's some warm fuzzy person popping in your head making you feel good. There's an idea that their presence in your mind, in your thoughts, it participates in your ego being boosted, in your energy being elevated, right? So there's something going on here that this person is providing. They're a resource for your kind of emotional and spiritual fuel. There's something that you're gaining from them in that respect. And there's also an idea here with that Two of Sword. The Two of Sword, if you're familiar with the Rider-Waite, let's pop it up for everybody. You have a person sitting, wrong button, there we go, right, with the swords crossed, and they're blindfolded, and there's this, you know, one of the ways that you can look at this is holding two ideas in your head while not believing either. Which this is also a very good interpretation of that. Because you have somebody who's holding both masks. They're not wearing either right now, and they can kind of put either on at any time, but they're just masks. So like, they're neither. There's also the idea that this is a mental process. This is a mental activity. So what I mean by that is that the thoughts that you're having about this person are just that. It's not a soul connection. It's not a heavier spiritual connection, but there is something that you internally feel like that you would gain from them in some fashion that is motivating you to, for them to manifest in your thinking. You have to ask yourself too, how do you feel about that? You know, like sometimes if you're unsure about what direction to take, people will say, oh, we'll flip a coin. And that does work. But you have to think about it a little differently. You can't just flip the coin. Instead, you have to look about how you feel about the answer. So let's say you're not sure if you want to eat rice or beans. So you're like, I don't know, do I want to eat rice or beans? I don't know, so I'm going to flip a coin, right? If heads is rice and tails is beans, and I flip that coin and I get heads, and I am happy about that, I always wanted the rice. If I flip that coin and get heads and I'm unhappy, I didn't want the rice to begin with, right? And so it's not about what the coin says, it's about how you feel about what the coin says. I don't know if that makes sense. So, at the end of the day, you kind of have to say, you know, what is this thing that I feel like that is making me feel good about them? Like, what are they doing? What is it that has attracted them to me that is kind of filling me up somehow to where I, you know, that it's kind of popping into my head, you know, it's sort of, no, not insane. It's more of when we care how somebody feels about us, it can change the way we approach them. And some of our closest friends may even say, wow, you act different around that person. You talk different or you act different, right? And so it's not a bad thing. And in this particular circumstance, like the state of the Nine of Pentacles, like we talked about in the card of the day, and when we talked about with your birth card, the Nine of Pentacles is an energy of rest. Now, what does rest mean? A lack of imposition. It's a lack of work to be done because you've done the work. It's leisure. You know, wealth leads to time to relax and enjoy your bird, right? She even put the bird in the. Right. So the next question would be is like, what is the nature of this relationship, and what can it be, and what should it be? You know, because in some cases you may want something out of a relationship and then discover that it is more valuable as something else. And the something else is now irreparably damaged due to the fact that you guys kind of maybe took the wrong direction with that. And so it's important to look at that person and say, you know, what is it? Who are they for me? And then once you've discovered what that is, and you're comfortable enough to accept it now, maybe an opportunity to even discuss it with that person and to accelerate that and to like, so for instance, you know, there's been a lot of circumstances where, even in my own life, where connections have gone to a place they shouldn't have, and very fortunately, I was able to kind of backpedal that and say, let's start over here, and it can turn into a very powerful mentorship or a very powerful friendship or a very powerful partnership. And so knowing what your motivation is and what theirs is and the nature of that love, because frankly, any connection at all is an act of love. Hating somebody is an act of love. So you have to understand the dynamic of that. What direction is it facing? What is the motivation behind it? What shape does it have? And all of these things are going to affect who you are in front of them, so that you can at least, now this isn't your energy. This is your energy with respect to them. It's not like you walk around two-faced. That's not what this means. This means that you have fear and that you feel like you have to be a certain thing in front of them in order to not damage. Or in your communication with them, you might act or think or talk or profess an interest that you don't actually have, you know, whatever the case, in order to kind of win acceptance from that person, right? But now, the effect of this is that it's not authentic. And so I will leave you with this warning. When you reflect the world, you draw the attention of people who want that. But instead, when you shine your own inner light, you draw attention of things and people who are attracted to that. So, and it's much better to attract people into your life that are attuned to your light than not. And now, secondly, when you're not being, and I'm not saying you're being an inauthentic person, that's not what I mean, but when you're not being yourself in front of somebody for the sake of them liking you, or for a fear that they won't, or whatever the case may be, you run that same risk with them. And you also run the risk of being misunderstood or coming off inauthentic. People who are emotionally intelligent can kind of pick that out from a mile away, and it can really damage the integrity of their trust for you on an emotional level. So it's important that you are authentic. And if they're giving you peace of mind and they're giving you joy, allow for that. That's great. And that should be able to continue. That should be allowed to continue as long as it's healthy. And so it does come down as well to them and where are they in this. Because if this is a one-way street that is unhealthy, is not sustainable, and will ultimately lead to your disappointment, right? As opposed to if this is a two-way street, there can be this opportunity for a very positive and effective connection and communication that can turn into growth, can turn into evolution, and all kinds of really good things can come from that. So we just have to allow ourselves to be open to it. Okay? And certainly, you know, I would say as you progress through your walk on learning how to interact with people and how to be more authentic, there's a lot of things that are going to pop up, and with respect to how the kinds of people that you bring into your life based on how you interact with the universe. There's a huge difference when you start shining your own light instead of reflecting the light of the world. The light of the world is ugly, man. The light of the world is like dark sometimes. But your own inner light will absolutely drown that out. The period of time that we're in right now, with respect to the major, is the Hermit. The Hermit's a regular person, but he's got this lantern, and it's a magic lantern. And this lantern can only shine on the truth. That's useful, right? Could you imagine having a lantern that only shined on the truth? I mean, really, that can do some very good things in your life. The problem is it's limited. It doesn't work in the sun. It's too bright, and so the sun drowns it out, and it's useless. Like, it doesn't work. Sorry. It can only work in the dark. You have to be in the dark for it to work. Now, what does that mean? That's esoteric language. What's the truth of that? What does that mean? What that means is that it's inside, not out. The work is inward, not outward. So you're not looking at the world. You're looking at yourself. And that light shines on the real you. That's the point here. Okay? So, if possible, if you're able, during this period of time, it's good to look in with the intent of asking yourself, what's my fuel, what's my currency, and what does this person have that they're kind of getting into my mind, and is that connection good or bad? Like, is it sustainable or not? Okay. Alrighty. Give me just a moment. Okay, Pariti, you are next. Oh, and just one more time really quickly. Happy birthday, Jackie. That's awesome. Just, I'm glad that I got to spend some of your birthday with you. And it's an honor and I appreciate it. So, let's see here. Okay, Pariti. Will I clear this exam? Should I start taking classes from today? Okay. You're welcome and thank you. And thank you for participating. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to use Terror of the Holy Light. This is a great deck. I like the imagery. I like the color. I like the symbolism. It's a pretty heavy deck. Pretty dense symbolically. Oh, that's right. Pariti speaks Hindi. And was asking if there was somebody here that can translate. And I think Bhavya had said that he was willing to do that. Yeah, it is 3 a.m. and I know I should be asleep right now too, but I'm just going to finish up the list here and then, go from there. I'm going to try to do 2 hours. I'm at an hour and a half. So we'll see. And thank you so much, Jackie. Enjoy your day. Get some good rest and enjoy your day, all right? Great, Bhavya. Thank you. Okay, so... I wish the Google Chat had a translate feature. I know that some of the translations aren't so bad. But I will say this. I was born and raised in New York in the United States. New York has a very specific accent, which I don't actually have. Mine's close, but I moved to Florida in my teen years and lost the Brooklyn accent. And now I live in the Hudson Valley in the upstate New York, which has a totally different accent than the city and Florida. So I'm this weird mixture. And so I found that when speaking, sometimes my English is a little weird for people because I tend to be very formal and then casual in the same sentence, and that can throw off non-English speakers that are attempting to translate. So I apologize for that. It's just kind of the way that I speak. I tend to speak through metaphor, and then use humor as effect for the purposes of hyperbole, but that doesn't always come off great, but I try. Oh, you're not being a bother. No, obviously you have issues with your technology, and so I understand that you kind of jump back and forth, and it's not your fault. I get it. And so, Jeannie, what we should wind up doing so that we don't run into this, this is my email address, right? mcarrus@gmail, right? That phone number, you can send me a text message, okay? Why don't you email me a time that we can do like a quick private reading? During so that we don't, because I know it's frustrating during a live stream, and frankly I want to keep the live stream going, and so I don't want to take time to do a reading for somebody who's not in the room, so it would be very I'm more than happy to do that, right? So if you'd like to send me an email. You sent me an email and I didn't respond. I don't know about that. I would have easily responded to it. So send one again, because it might have gotten pulled into spam, or I did not see that. I did see some comments on some videos, but I did not see an email or a text message, okay, because I do answer them. I'm very strict about that, actually, so I do answer them. But yeah, so send another email, because I'm not sure why it didn't come through. I monitor it constantly, and wouldn't have missed it unless again, it might have wound up in spam or something. I don't know. Okay. So I'm scrolling back in the chat here to look at. Okay, Pariti, I don't recall if there was a... Okay, great. That'll work then. Thank you. All right. So, yeah, Pariti, I'm having it's trying to scroll back. I'm having trouble. Oh, there you go. Well, I cleared the CET. All right. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Strength. Leo. Okay. Now. The strength is not courage. Courage is acting while afraid, right? You're in spite of fear. The strength is fearless. The answer is you have nothing to be afraid of, right? That's the first thing. Second question was, should I start taking classes? Right. Because again, you have nothing to be afraid of. Ace of Disc. This is the idea of, with respect to the question here, should I start taking a class? The Ace of Disc is the card of Earth. With respect to movement, it means stop, not go. So, take from that what you will, but I will say that if you were interpreting a question of, like, is it time to move or stay still, the answer is stay still. Okay? Yep. I'm just going to pop one more out here. Justice. The balancing of the two elements. The idea here is justice does not just mean balance, but it means specifically that that is guaranteed, right? Like, it's, you can fight all you want, but in the end, the balance will happen. It's a zero-sum universe, and so take from here is giving to there, giving from here is taking from there, and there's no, it's automatic, is what I'm getting at. It's unavoidable. So the idea of the Justice card in this particular circumstance refers to making that middle, right? So all of these are positive, but so let's just run down as well for Bhavya to kind of give you a sentence here. Don't be afraid, you'll be okay. Don't move, right? The question about movement is, should I move or not? No. And justice is the idea of approaching it balanced. Don't come in too hard or too soft. Don't try to overthink the situation. And more importantly as well, the idea of justice is that the right thing will happen. Like, you can't manipulate the circumstance in the wrong way here. It's going to wind up being correct. And it's all, yeah, it's a positive sign. Very much. 2 majors and an ace. Blah, blah, blah. As far as period of time, too, this is a decent lesson. The period of time can be determined by looking at the wheel here with respect to a couple of things. First of all, each major arcana, that's these cards here, these two are the majors. We have justice and strength. Ironically, there's some connection between these two cards, which I won't get into now, but it has to do with how they were numbered and so on. But they're also associated with signs, with sun signs. All right, we have Leo and Virgo. And if we look at the wheel here at Leo and Virgo, they're right next to each other. Right? Leo moves into that, or Libra rather. Leo moves into that. They're not opposites on the wheel. They're close to each other. They're kind of in a similar place, but sort of competing energies, right? In the one case, you have the element of fire, and then in the other case, you have the element of air. And again, those are next to each other. In fact, another way to put that, as opposed to next to each other, is the idea of they require each other, meaning that fire can't exist without air. It can't burn in water. It can't burn in space. Air is required for fire to exist, and air doesn't exist without fire. Air without fire is water. So there has to be that balance. And if you notice here too in the symbolism, you have the fire and water in the scale, and the air is by itself. Right. So this idea is present here. Okay. All right. So I hope that was insightful. Okay. Alrighty. Well, actually, that looks like a. Alrighty. So, I hope that was insightful. And all I ask is if anybody finds anything I'm doing valuable, that you please like the video and consider a comment. It makes a big difference. It goes a long way to let me know that the work I'm doing is worth it, right? Okay. All right, great. So, so Jeannie, your question was what to expect for the rest of the year. That's a kind of a pretty broad question that would require like an actual spread. So what I would do is we can take your birth card and we can apply that to a period of time, but it's a little out of the scope of a free reading to kind of that particular reading. I actually do that would be relevant either to the astrology house, which will actually give you a 12-month period of time. It's quite a long reading though. It's almost an hour. But it's very in-depth and is going to give you some serious insight into the upcoming year. Month by month, week by week, deacon by deacon type of thing. It's pretty intense. All right. So, another one that would be relevant, it would be past, present, future on a smaller scale. It's about 9 cards. And also goes through a more general picture of the future. So I don't remember your birth card. Yes, I'm here. Did I lose the stream or did something go wrong? Doesn't look like it. Yeah, the stream looks like it's doing okay. I don't know. I am here, Bhavya. Okay, so Sajini, Right, okay, yep. The 5. The 5 of Swords, right. Okay. Yep. Right, yes. Okay. That's the one. Okay, yeah, I understand. I understand. I know, like, I know you want that. And I know it's hard. And you can't make the cards tell you what you want to hear. And unfortunately, I won't do that. I have been doing this for too long to disrespect my art and to lie to people, right? So I'm going to tell you what I see. Why don't we do this? I feel your pain, okay? Reach out to me. Like, again, send me another email, send me another text message if you want, even like direct message or something. Like, and so just we'll connect. I also have a TikTok account. Maybe it'll work if you try to get me there, or Facebook. I have a Facebook, whatever. We have to connect, but outside of this, and we will have a conversation. We could even do it over Zoom, because I understand we're in different countries. We can do Zoom, or we can do... And that's not your fault, right? That's not your fault. And in fact, there's no reason for you to... and in fact, here's my notes on that reading for this person. I just happen to still have it right here, okay? The fact of the matter is that that's not going to change. They are superficial. They're indifferent to you. Like, that's literally what I saw. And then this is, they... And so, because there's something deeper there with them that has nothing to do with you necessarily, but you're being affected by it, right? I don't, but I can get a WhatsApp. I'm sure I'm sure if it's a free account, I'll be happy to do it. That's why half the things that I use to communicate with people, I have, is because various. Oh, I use this, I use that. So, okay, but so all right, and. Because there's no reason for me to throw more cards answering the same question. I'm not going to do that again. It's been several times. I even took notes and went over it with you a couple times. But I know what you're doing. You're a human being who's in pain that wants to hear something they want to hear. And so, rather than that, though, which is not what I do, if that's what you want, wrong place. However, what I will do is have a conversation with you privately. And talk about this situation, and maybe we can find not what you want to hear, but what you need to, because clearly what I'm saying it's not helping you to heal, which is okay, because healing is impossible. Instead of trying to heal, meaning take the crumbled piece of paper and try to make it what it used to be, have fun with that. It doesn't work. There's a law in physics called entropy, and you can't break that law. However, you can, instead of trying to heal, allow something new to come and be created, which is going to be you, devoid of this necessity of this person that is an empty pit for you. You deserve better. But you have to want it, and you have to take that. So, all right, sure, yeah, and it's a new energy, right? Yeah, of course it is. And there's everybody in the room who has ever loved and lost knows what you're going through, and that feeling, the confusion, the emptiness, the loss of identity. Why? Because so much of your identity was in them. And actually, of course it wasn't. We just thought. We actually give our agency when we fall in love. It's a weird thing. Sure, go ahead. Fabia, go ahead. Hello, Lydia. Thank you for popping in. I appreciate you joining the stream. So, I hope that made some sense. What I'm trying to get at is that what we want and what we need is not usually the same. And, of course, absolutely. I'm going to be opening up the list again probably in about 10 minutes, right? So 3:30. All right, and so what I'll do, let me do this now. Let me pop on, get the list started now. And, okay, Lydia. And I believe there might have been someone in front of you that I hadn't put on the list yet, so let me just make sure that I honor that. If not, then you'll be next in just a moment. It looks like that might be the case, though. Yeah, Nat Cat, if you're still in the room. If you're still in the room, just let me know. AJ, how's it going? You ask me very nicely, and then you tell me that I'm really smart and that you like me, and then I put you on the list. Okay, so here, let me. AJ. And the way the list works here is that I put your name on. If I call you and you're not in the room, your name goes to the back of the list, and you move to the next person. Anybody who is interested in a paid reading, like an actual spread, or a specific question as opposed to a personal message, trumps the list. You jump to the front. Otherwise, we're just going to run through as we do, and go from there. Okay, but I'll be. My doubt is that. Oh, really? I'm not sure. Yeah. Well, the personal message is essentially the 3 cards, which includes the day of your birth and then the period of time that we're in right now. So right now we're in the period of the 9 of Pentacle, and we're going to be moving into the period of the 10. During the month, we're ruled by the Hermit, so that doesn't change throughout the month. Let me knock that down. I just looked at that. Okay. And so, yeah, so basically, and I mean, there might be confusion, I suppose, with respect to my process here. Let me just close this window that's getting in my way. Actually, it won't be opening later, so let's just take that out of there. Okay. Because it is getting late. My brain's getting a little. Okay. Yeah, I had a very busy day today. I'm also a deacon in a church, and we meet, to do church business. And we had a lot of stuff going on. It's, including new bylaws and voting on a bunch of stuff that we're doing to the building and whatever the case may be. Bobby, so anybody who participates in my live stream is entitled to a free personal message. And what that means is that we locate your birth card based on the Deacons, and then we apply it to the card of the day, or the period of time, more appropriately. It's not really the card of the day. It's the card of like a 10-day period. It's the same as your birth card, but where we are right now. And then we apply that to that, plus the energy of the the ruler of the time, in this case the hermit, right? And so that's that personal message. That's that process. As far as specific individual questions that would require a reading, then I do charge for that. Otherwise, the message is free. Okay. So what I'm going to be doing here is, it looks like Nat Cat may not be here any longer, and if they're not, then that's okay. And we're going to move through the list. If I call and they're not here, the next person goes up, and same thing, right? And like I said, so in the meantime, what I need to do the readings is your birth card. If I don't know your birth card, or if you don't know it rather, we can locate it quickly on the wheel. All right, so I'm just going to warm up my tea. I need about 5 minutes, and probably sooner, because I just have to heat up my tea real quick. I'll be back very quickly. I'm going to put the wheel up. If you can't see it because of your device is too small, or for whatever reason, I'll locate it when I get back. Okay, so about 5 minutes. I'm going to pop the wheel up and keep it up for you, so that anyone who'd like to participate can find their birth card. Just find your birthday, and then the card that's right next to it there will be, okay? And so I'll leave it up, and then I'll be back in 5 minutes. Thank you so much. See you guys in a sec. Oh, and just to clarify, the list is Nat Cat, Lydia, AJ, unless they're not available, and then we'll go from there, okay? So thanks a lot. Alrighty, we're back. Appreciate everyone's patience. So, let's see what we have here. We are on Lydia. Yep. Okay. And then AJ. Okay. All right, great. Let me get that asterisk out of there. Okay, great. And finally, let's find your card. Pop that in real quick. May 1st. Great. Okay. So May 1st is the 6 of Pentacle. We're looking at the energy of Taurus, but we're looking at the moon in Taurus. So when people ask you what's your sign, you've told them Taurus, but now you're going to tell them the moon in Taurus. And this does not change throughout your life, okay? And just to clarify, we are looking at May 1, 6 of Pentacle. Okay, 6 of Pentacle. There we go. So let me get that out. There we go. Okay. This is a great card. This is a great card for a couple reasons. I know anyone who's ever gotten a tarot reading, how many times a night do you hear the words, "Wow, that's a great card"? But this one is. Okay. So here's the deal. You have an image here which shows at first glance, right? So similar to what I talked about in the beginning of the stream. And if anybody wants to have their mind blown open, go back to the beginning of the stream and watch the first 10 minutes. It's pretty awesome. And I talk about why there's 22 majors, and I talk about sort of what's behind the numbering system here. And what we're looking at, there's 3 different levels of knowledge, right? There's the outer knowledge. Oh, this is a card about charity. Then there's the inner knowledge. No. This is not a card about charity. This is a card about doing what's right. Then there's the secret in the middle. And the secret of this card is very different than both those two energies. The secret in this card is the obligation that the wealthy have to take care of the poor, because the reason they're wealthy is that we agree upon a system that creates poor people. It's because we live in a system where people who are disabled, whether that's physically, mentally, or otherwise, are at a disadvantage. And so it's easy for us to profit, and we know that. And so we have an obligation to take care of those people. Okay? That's what the card means. It's not the card of charity. It's the card of recognizing that if we all get out of our own way and recognize that we're all human beings, and that we're no better than the next guy because we were born into a fortunate situation and they weren't. Some of us wake up to that fact and demand justice. If you know the card Justice in the tarot, if you don't, you're about to see it, but if you know the card, then you'll very easily see that the symbol here is similar. This person in the middle is holding the scales, which are even, and they're holding a sword. Justice is cold. Justice is exact. Here, the person's holding the scales. They're not quite balanced. Notice that one's a little tipped down. And they're in the act of giving in order to make that scale even. They're close, but they're not 100%. And so they have to tip that scale to make it even. Why? Because they know in their heart it's not their fault that they're rich, and it's not that person's fault that they're poor. At the end of the day, it's actually a product of the system, and more of it is because of luck than we like to think. We kind of like to take credit for that, right? And so the idea here of your birth card is the idea that there is born in all of us one of three attitudes. Not my problem. See how far that gets people. I'm better than everybody, and so I have to help the world because it's my obligation, which is really ego. Or looking at somebody with love, recognizing that we're all the same, and it's your duty to find that balance. Now, that can lead to like an activist kind of spirit. It can lead to like kind of a demand for the right thing to happen. And the period that we're in right now, the Nine of Pentacles, refers to this place of having the peace of that comes from us doing that. The peace of us finding that balance in our lives, because we can all be in the state of the Nine of Pentacles if we just recognize that, and we would work toward it as a society. And we don't do that. We judge and we profit and we take. Not all of us. The Hermit is the period of time where it's conducive to do that work, to go inward and say, who am I? Am I the giver? Am I the taker? Am I the judger? When I give, do I give to ensure that there's no shame to the recipient? When I receive, do I feel shameful? Because you shouldn't. Everything we have came from someone else. Everything. Even the stuff we worked for. Right? Why do I have this deck? Because a tree grew. And without that tree, there was no paper. So I can be all proud all I want that I earned the money to buy this deck, but that had nothing to do with it. There was no deck without the tree. So at the end of the day, that's the deal here. Okay? And with the Hermit, again, this is the time that is conducive to you. It's the energy of the period is assisting you in doing this work and finding that answer, and in spreading that balance around, waking other people up to the fact that can happen and we can have this balance. But we have to do the work, and we have to recognize why we have our status. Status is granted. We don't earn it. It's granted by others. And it can be taken away. And, we can, instead of relying upon status, rely upon truth. And the way that we do that is that we act right. And suddenly you'll see that that class is a lie. Now, you asked a specific question here. Soulmate connection with my ex, and I want to know if he'd come back. Okay, well, it's kind of out of the scope of a free reading. I'll throw a card. And actually, let's do this. Let's do it this way, Lydia. One of the things I wanted to do tonight, and it's getting late, so AJ is going to be my last reading for the evening. I wanted to spotlight a deck, the Surrealist Tarot, okay? And here it is. I have never read with it. I've studied it. I've looked at it. I've enjoyed the artwork. Like I kind of showed off a card before. Wait till you guys see it. So what I'll do, I'll pull a card to try to answer your question related to your ex. And then C, we'll use, kind of double duty. We'll use the reading to show off the deck. So the deck itself is a, here, it's called the Surrealist Tarot. I highly suggest you give this a look on Amazon or wherever you... if you're going to buy a tarot deck, buy it from a local shop. If you can't buy it from a local shop, or the artists themselves, then obviously you can go to like an Amazon or an eBay or wherever you buy that kind of thing. But, you know, really, ideally, it would be appropriate to, if you can, to give that money to your local shop. If they can order it, you know, have them order it for you. So that said, what we're going to do is we're going to do a spotlight of the Surrealist Tarot, and we're going to answer Lydia's question related to the X. Okay. Now, you'll see I have the Ace of Sword up here on the screen. That's just for reference, because this deck that you're about to see is so bonkers off the wall with respect to the artwork that it's not an easy read. And so that's there for people to look at as a reference to the card. I'm going to pull so that you can, if you've had any experience with tarot, know what the heck we're looking at. Because the artwork in here is not at all your standard tarot artwork. All right, so that said, let us begin. The question here is about a love that was lost. And the question is whether or not there's a chance that tributary will come and meet again. So that's the question. I've shuffled this deck hundreds of times. I've stared at these cards. There's a process I go through. It's a meditative process where you scan the cards. Scanning means you really take your time. You look at the deck and the cards, one little component at a time, really take the artwork in, and don't spend more than, or don't do more than one card per day. Just don't, right? And so I typically will pull out all the aces and just do the aces. Unfortunately, it is closed, but yeah, I'm going to be heading out of here shortly. What I will say, though, if you just simply locate your birthday on this wheel and you put that card in the comments of the video, I will give you your free reading in the comments. And I do honor that. If you go back to the comments, you'll see that there's circumstances there that I've answered pretty in depth in the comments. I do honor that. Okay. So let's take a look. Okay. Two of Wand. Okay. Two of Wand. Okay. And very quickly, that's funny. Mooney's card is Two of Wand. So I'm doing a reading for Lydia. Mooney came in and said, hey, you know, can I get a reading? Here's my birthday. And his card is the Two of Wands. And that's the card I just pulled for Lydia. So that's just really neat. That's just interesting. But so look at this card. I mean, it's very sort of Dali-esque in the artwork, right? Although it's not Salvador Dali, it's certainly inspired by him. So Two of Wands. So let's jump now to here. So I'll pop the Two of Wands up there so people can see it. All right, so the image of the Two of Wand is the image of waiting. Right, this person has the world in their hand, and that world is like all the possibility. And they've got their staff, and they're looking out from their castle at the world, at all this possibility of what they can have and travel and experience and all the joy. And there's the other staff back there that they're waiting for that other person to come, and that person isn't there. Right? What's the fun of sharing or of experiencing the world if there's no one to share it with? It's beauty takes two. There's the thing and that's being observed, and there's the observer. And without those two, there is no beauty, right? It's a flower is just a flower until I come along and look at it and go, oh, wow, that's really pretty. I just at that moment gave birth to beauty. Beauty did not exist prior to that. Same with love. All these things require the other. And the Two of Wands is in a state of waiting, right? And that's the state that you're literally in right now. Now, the lesson there, first of all, is that a state of waiting is self-imposed. You do have the power to move on. Now, that doesn't mean your heart makes it easy. Right? Don't you wish it was that simple? I've been there. We've all been there. Anyone in the room been in love? Right. So it's pretty sickening to for someone to sit and tell you move on, and that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying though is that you are waiting, and that's not going to change anytime soon. However, let's just throw a couple more. Why not? It's the end of the night. You're my last reading. I'm not always a fan of these readings because, you know, they hurt. Okay. Now, this is interesting. I know I was joking before about how many times do you hear a tarot reader say, great card? This isn't a bad one. The Queen of Swords is the card of like the... Well, first of all, we're talking about the element of air. Okay, well, let me go back to the... There we go. And pop up the Queen of Swords so you can see her. Okay. Okay, hello, Luann. Thanks for popping in. Let's see. It's like the thought is there, but the feeling is missing. What, in this one? Or are we talking about the two? The queens are the idea of the nurturing nature of the element. They're the idea of the element in the state of activity, but that activity is a little more polished, right? The knight is the movement and the motion going on there. Right, okay, so that would be here, the Two of Wands, yeah. And another energy for that is the idea of waiting. Another way to put that, too, is the idea of not wanting to experience it alone, like wanting to share the experience, and so you'd rather not do it than do it alone. But it's also a lesson that will stop you from acting. The lesson in the two... is that world in his hand is an important one. That's opportunity that's not being utilized, that's being missed. And, you know, everybody wants a companion for their journey. Who doesn't? But don't skip the journey for lack of a partner. You'll meet someone along the way, right? That actually happened to me directly once, literally. And then while I was on a train, I made a very good friend on that train. So, and I was alone. I took the trip alone. But that said, though, so and now obviously when you're in the state of loss, it's very few words can be heard other than they love you and they're coming back, right? Like that's what you want to hear. And now we have the Queen of Pentacles. So we have the Queen of Swords, Queen of Pentacles. And in the middle is this state of waiting. Now, you can look at it as this is you and this is them. And I think that that's very appropriate. I think that that's a good vibe here. Because we're also looking at the Queen of Pentacles compared to the Sword. Right, and now let's look at the dynamics between those two cards, okay? The idea here is one is designed to be picked up and used. That's what a sword is for. It's a tool that isn't like it. You don't walk around like flipping around a sword all day long, right? It's a tool that you grab. You don't grab a hammer unless you need to bang a nail into something, right? Whereas the pentacle is a different circumstance. Also, elementally, air is one of the major elements, one of the 3 core elements, and earth is the product of those 3 combined. But it also, the idea of earth is slow, lack of motion. It's not the idea of things moving, it's the idea of things not moving, right? So you're in motion, they're not. You're waiting, right? So generally speaking, the question here is, and we've kind of covered it in a few different ways here, this unfortunate circumstance of a love that kind of separated, and will it find its way back? It looks like kind of not. And if it does, I said this before, so I just want to clarify it because it's an important point, and I think it's one that's good to kind of end the evening on. We have these things that occur in our life. Some of them are really, and I just want to preclude. I'm a divorced man. Have 3 kids with my ex-wife, and we do talk, but I've been through this. Sometimes things get so damaged that healing's not possible. Like, you can heal from certain things. You get banged up, you get bruised, you get a cut, you get a scratch. But sometimes there's no healing. And that's okay. That's reality. That's it's the human condition. It's sad, but it's we are capable of suffering. Now, however, we also have this magic that we've been given, this power that we've been given, which is to create. We were never meant to do that, but through our connection with God and divinity, we're given the power of God, which is the power to create. We do it through our minds. We do it through our wills. Oh, you didn't get cut off? No. I'll get to you, AJ. And so, here's the reality. When you've come to the conclusion that you can no longer, there is no healing. Because what is healing? Healing is taking a thing that isn't what it used to be and trying to make it what it used to be. That's what healing is, right? Fixing it. This thing got broke, let me put it back together and make it what it used to be. But it's never what it used to be, and it can't be. And in some cases, again, it's so damaged that there's no chance. So instead of healing, you create something new. So the goal is not to make the old thing come back. It's to be open to the new thing, and that new thing is more correct anyway. It's more right. It's more what you were supposed to have, be, do. And that sucks when you're in the middle of this and you're first kind of experiencing that loss, and you're going through those stages of anger and guilt and all these different things. So the stages of grief don't happen in order, right? They flip around, and but the reality is that you're going to flip through those, and that's okay. And so what you're feeling right now, there is no answer. There isn't somebody out there that's going to give you the answer and suddenly fix that. Rather, you need to change your perspective and more importantly, what it is that you're striving for. Do you want them back? Maybe, but do you? What you really want, what your soul wants, is to love someone and to be loved. What your soul wants is to be filled up instead of being empty. That's okay. And if that person can't fill you up, having them won't fix anything. People come in and out of our lives for reasons, and sometimes it's not the reasons we think. And so when they leave, we're like, well, wait a minute, why did they leave? That wasn't supposed to happen. No, it was. They came in and out for the reason. They fulfilled their place. And the universe is not really usually okay with people outliving their welcome. It's like you've done the work here, and people, the transient ones in our life, as painful as they are, they're there for a reason. something that happened to me recently as well. Hales, thank you for popping in. I'm actually about to jump off. I have one more reading, and then I'm going to be jumping off, but I appreciate you joining, and I stream every day. So, but that said, you don't want them to be transient because they filled you up. But what we don't realize is that once someone has done their karmic duty, so to speak, and they've accomplished what they're here to do, by staying, it prevents other things that were supposed to happen to them and for them, to you and for you, from happening. And that's not good. And that's a selfish reason to keep people in our lives past their point that it's supposed to happen. We have to be able to be okay with letting go, to be open to allow that new thing that's supposed to be to come in. They won't and can't if there's no room. So, is it Shally or Shaylee? Hello, thank you for popping in. So, I hope that was insightful. I mean, I know it's, I know. And everybody in here who's lost love knows. It's kind of hitting me a little hard too, because it's recent in my case of some stuff going on that's I'm actually getting a little emotional. But the fact is that you're not alone. You're never alone. Shaylee, great. Okay, I like that. It's a pretty name. And who you are and who you were being that got you to where you are not the same. They're not. And who you are wants something very different than this. So, what I'd like to do is ask you to come back another time as well, as you go through this process. This walk that you're taking is not an easy one, and there's some people, know it or not, that are walking that with you. I'm one of them. Of course you're sad, and now here's the point. That's okay. You should be, right? And that doesn't mean, don't be sad and move on and don't feel. Just forget all that. Feel, own it, go into it. When we have a headache and we're like, oh my God, my head, and so you spend all this time trying to ignore it and do your day, but it doesn't work. There's this urgency and you're kind of short with people, right? Because you have this headache. Give into the headache, like feel it. Like instead of ignoring it, feel it. And what happens is that you recognize there's you and then there's the headache, and you're the observer. You're not experiencing the pain. You're observing the pain. And you could actually separate, and suddenly you're not suffering anymore. The pain's there, but it's not suffering. It just is. And when this sadness comes, it's totally normal. You have a loss, and there's a wound. And that wound's going to take a minute to close up. And your heart is a new shape, and it will never be the same shape that it was again. But there will be somebody else in your life. You are going to fall in love. And the next one, you're going to be stronger because you know a little bit more who you are. You know a little bit more who you aren't. Hopefully you learned a little bit about what you deserve. And hopefully you're able to look in the mirror and see what the world sees instead of what you've told yourself, so that you can be open to that person. Because the last thing we want to do is miss love because we're too busy looking at what we don't have. Let me point that out here. I'm going to jump to this. Let me point that out. Okay, the card you're looking for, the answer to your question, is the Five of Cups. And what the Five of Cups is telling us is don't miss the cups in the back for the ones in the front. See the 3 cups in the front? That's all that nonsense. See those 2 cups in the back? You know why there's 2? The one's for you, and the other one is extra. That's for someone else even. So like, oh my gosh, these 3 cups spilled. Man, you got, not only do you have a cup, you got 2. Like, you even have extra. Don't worry about what you lost. You've got plenty. Not only that, but someone's coming to share that drink with you. So just relax. This is a bad time, but it's not. What actually wound up happening is you grew. And you're not mourning the loss of this person. You're mourning the loss of the person you were that doesn't exist anymore. And you're a little afraid about what this new person is going to be that you're about to become. But I guarantee you that the new person is stronger, better, more authentically you, and is going to be happier and more fulfilled than the one you are now because you know more. Okay? And I hope that was insightful. I mean, I know this is a painful time, and some things, like, there's no words, and so I'll stop talking. I love you. Your family and friends love you. And anybody who understands the connection between people and the fact that we're all the same. This is God looking at himself. This is the universe knowing itself. And so you're not alone. You are loved. And you deserve to be fulfilled. And by waiting for too long, it stops the wound from closing. You can't let that happen. All right? Okay, so let's do this. AJ, I have to scroll back here and to see your birth card. If it was put in, and if not, then we'll find it for you. If you put your birthday, maybe. Okay, yeah, AJ, if you can let me know your birthday, just a month and day, don't need the year. Or let me pop the wheel up and you can find it yourself as well if you'd like. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. Wow, Lydia. I appreciate you saying that. That means a lot. 3 of Swords, okay. Okay. So Lydia, thank you, and I appreciate that a lot. Okay, 3 of Swords. And you know, before we begin, AJ, excuse me, Lydia, please come back in the stream. I try to stream every day. If I don't, it's 6 days a week. It's usually around 1:30 at night. Sometimes it's sporadic. So I'm not plug-in. Hit the bell, because when I stream, you'll know. We can walk this together, right? Like, there's people here, myself, that have been through this recently. I'm not any better off than you are. I don't know anything more than you do. I don't have any pearls other than what I've experienced, but what I can say is that I want to use your experience to help me, and I would hope that you can use my experience to help you, and together, and anyone else that wants to participate in this. Remember who we are, which is not it's not this thing we occupy. You don't get into your car and become a Ford. Why do you get into this and become a human? You're not. You're observing. You're driving. Forget all that. And let's discover ourselves together and be open, so that the next time that a love comes in, that we're just ready to grab that and run with it, and that it's the right kind. Okay, so just do that. Pop in. Anyone else too that feels that connection here, that we can discover each other and be better off, then let me know, and pop in on the stream. Okay. And for everybody else in the room right now, AJ is going to be my last reading. I've been on here for it's going to be going on 3 hours. It's a long day. I spent 5 hours working, doing church stuff, good stuff, bylaws, new things that we got going, you know, renovations, good things. We're doing a lot of good work in the community, but I'm pretty knocked out. So AJ is going to be last, and anybody who's in the room that wants to participate, all I need is your birthday in the comments. I will honor this. If you put your birthday in the comments, I will provide your reading for free in the comments, okay? All right, so AJ, Three of Sword. Let's pop it out so people can see it. It's one of the most iconic images in the tarot. Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you, Lydia. And AJ, I want to ask you, when you say that your birth card is the Three of Sword, is that based on the date of your birth? Is that based on your numerology or your sign? Like what? Okay. Same situation, yeah. Hales, thank you. That's the biggie, right? It's true. Like Hales was saying, like letting them go. What does letting them go mean even? This goes for AJ too. I mean, we're talking about love here, so. But, October 9th. Oh, let's just make sure we got the right card here. Yep, Three Sword. And we're also looking at Saturn in Libra. What does letting go mean? Letting go just doesn't mean letting them leave. Like, that's the physical letting go. Letting go is, you can't fake certain things. You can't fake forgiveness. You either feel it or you don't, right? You either are able to look at them with love again, or you still hate them, right? Like, you can't fake that, right? Or there's certain things you just can't fake. Oh, look at you guys. That's awesome. So, letting go has a lot to do with is the making room. Once you let go, what happens is that there's now a space, a void, and you know what happens when a vacuum is created, right? Something has to come in to fill that. That's physics. That's just Nate. You think that doesn't exist on the spiritual level? Psh. It's literally the mechanism by which most magical work is done, is by creating a space and then applying an intention to fill that. So it's also the, it's the mechanism by which all matter exists. I mean, I'm not going to go there. I already did in the beginning of the stream, but yeah. And again, just to anyone who's here, if you're just bored and want your head completely blown open, watch the first 20 minutes of the stream. But in the meantime, the Three of Sword is a card that is very complicated. Three represents, at its core level, I talked about this before, there's three levels of knowledge. There's the lie open, the truth in secret, the truth open. So let's talk about the lie in the open. Three swords in the heart. Broken heart. Betrayal, lies, right? Because why? Because the sword is mental. It refers to communication. It refers to mental state. Refers to intellect, and it's being used as a weapon against the heart. So it's the mind as a weapon against the heart, right? That's the outward. Everyone has access to that answer, right? You can look at the card and see that. Now, the Rider-Waite deck was developed by an adept of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn who had a very deep responsibility to the secrets of the order. And so, although he drew, well, he didn't. Pamela Coleman Smith is the artist, and she drew this deck with Hermetic symbolism. It's hidden. So there's another layer of symbolism here that's in the threes that has to do with this card. And the card is more about the idea of mind over emotion. The idea that the mind has the power to control that. Now let me explain how that is. An event takes place. Something comes into your existence. You perceive a phenomena. What happens is it enters your senses, right? If it's visually, you see it through your eyes. It enters your mind. It's processed. However, we don't access the real world. We can't. The real world is not available to us. We access it through the senses. And so we now have to process that somehow. And how we process that is through a story. We don't see the world. We take it in, we process it through the brain, and then we imagine this thing that we took in, and then we tell a story about the thing that we imagine, and then we emotionally react to the story. So we don't ever emotionally react to the world. We don't emotionally react to the processing. We emotionally react to the story we tell about the thing that we're processing that's in the world. So we're like 4 layers deep from the truth at any given moment in time. What this is saying is this idea that we have the ability to, using our minds, that's the mechanism, the vehicle for the storyteller. And the mind is what drives this situation. The heart is kind of at the mercy of the mind. And it's at the mind level that that all emotion is born. So we think something happens and we react to it emotionally, and then we process the mental image based on the feeling. Well, that's not how it works. Feelings come after thought, right? So the sword comes first. Now then there's the third and the inner truth, which is the truth told openly. There's no secret. Like what I just spoke to you is metaphor and takes some mental/spiritual processing to get. But here's the truth. The point existed as itself prior to the Big Bang and all this nonsense, right? It was just the point. And the point can only move in 3 directions. Up, down, left, right, or front, back. There's no 4th direction. So there's 3 main elements that form the universe. And those 3 elements and the combination of those 3 make everything happen. And how those get wielded in their appropriate ratio matters. The 3 of Sword is a warning against too much mental activity overtaking the others. So it's all air when it's supposed to be air, fire, water to give birth to earth. It's air, 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 which does not even allow the heart to speak. You know, it's like overthinking to the point where there is no emotion. It's the idea of allowing the exactness of the work to affect it. You know what a great example of this is? Photoshoppy. Right? Artwork that's painted that's not perfect looks beautiful and organic. Artwork that's too polished and everything's perfect, that's really like a mental exercise, looks photoshopped, right? It's like too sharp. It's like too perfect. That's the inner lesson of the 3 of Sword. The idea that the mind, when overextended, gets in the way of the heart to the degree that the heart doesn't even have a voice. The 9 is the period of time that we're in now. The 9 of Pentacles is the period of time where if you've done the work... I'm sorry, Jocelyn, actually, my stream's about to end. If you put your birthday in the comments, though, I will respond to that with a reading in the comments. And I do honor that, okay? Not the chat, but in the comments. So the 9 of Pentacles is the period of time where we get the rest that comes with doing the work. And what is that work? The Hermit. The Hermit represents the truth that there is no truth in the light, only in darkness. The Hermit is walking around with his magic lantern, and it only shines on the truth, and that's powerful. Like, imagine if you had one of those. Like, you had an app on your phone that you can turn, and it'll shine around, and it'll only shine on the truth. But there's a limitation here. It doesn't work in the sunlight, right? Take your phone outside and turn on the flashlight and see if you can see it on the floor. Of course not, right? It's too bright, so it doesn't work. So this lantern is useless in the light. It's only effective in the darkness. So what does that mean? That means that it's inside, not out. It means that the work needs to be done alone. And when you do that, you can, and this is the answer to your question. Here's the answer. I had to give you this so you can understand what I'm about to say to you. Because your aunt's right. Like, the cycle's not going to end until you make some change, and here's the change that needs to be made. The way you're approaching the world is in a way that you are reflecting light as opposed to casting it. Meaning that you are, when you reflect the light of the world, you attract the attention of things and people that want that. When you not reflect, but cast your own light, you draw attention of people who want that. The three of sword here is the idea of trying too hard. Just be authentic. And here's what happens. When you cast your own light, and you're being authentic about that, you are inevitably going to attract someone that's right for you, that likes what you are, not what you put out. And it affords a very beautiful thing, which is the ability to have a relationship whereby somebody is not only interested and okay with you being you, they actively seek you being you. They actively participate in you becoming a better you. And I don't mean the new age better, like you look sexier in your, bathing suit better. But that you're more authentic with your soul. That you're more able to confidently say what it is you like and don't like without fear of being not liked or judged, to speak your convictions. Now, what's going to happen with that is that power, when you finally show it to people, is going to attract people. And it's going to attract the kind of people that belong in your life, that are going to make you happy. So what's happening here is take all three of these, like, stop thinking, what should I do? What should I say? How should I act? Whatever the case. Don't process the connections mentally. The mind is a liar on purpose, because it has to interface with an infinite reality through five senses and process it, and it has to keep from us stuff that's not useful and and it has to calculate predictions so we don't trip over our own feet. The brain is busy. It doesn't have time to give you the truth. It really doesn't. Instead, it gives us a bunch of whatnot, and it's up to us to process. Am I hearing the truth? Am I hearing lies? Your aunt's a smart lady, and you know the reality. But now here's the work, because we're in the hermit phase, right? And so what this means is go inside and shine that light. And so what is that light? That light is, what do I really want? Because then that tells me what to put out. And if you do the work, you're going to recognize the thing that you want is happy. Fulfillment. Like, you don't want stuff. Stuff doesn't make you happy. Here's how pleasure works. Okay, I'm just gonna. It's like, oh crap, he's gonna start drawing diagrams. Yep. Ladies and gentlemen, we're drawing diagrams. Okay, but no, this is a biggie, and then I'm gonna have to end the evening. Okay, so here's the deal. Is this? Okay, awesome. All right. Here's pleasure. Okay, we have want, and we have. All right. Okay, good. Now, you want. You put out into the world, hey, I want this. The universe gives it back to you. Okay? At the moment that your want crosses the point that you have, is called pleasure. Okay? Because you got what you wanted. You put something out into the universe, and the universe provided that. And so the reward of that is happiness. Like, oh, pleasure. Oh, like, oh, I want a sip of tea. It's kind of sweet. It's dark. I make my tea black. It's not hot anymore, but it still washes, and there's that, like, after flavor, and pleasure. Now, the next sip won't be as good as the last. Okay, the reality here of how pleasure works is that it only exists here. Once your have exceeds the line of want, your pleasure decreases. That's why we want again. Otherwise, we would get what we wanted and we would stay in that spot and we would never leave, right? We would just like, we wouldn't drive toward things. We wouldn't want love anymore. We would just be stuck in that place. So pleasure only exists in that spot between wanting and having. Okay? Now, one of the things that we're able to do through this process is to recognize and this is so big, what it is that we want and why, and who's doing the wanting. Is it our ego? Is it ourself? Our ego does not have our best interest in mind. It doesn't. The ego wants what it wants, and it has this magic power to convince us into thinking that we're the one doing the wanting. No. It has agency. And we have to actually fight that and to take agency back, or we actually lose that control. So what happens is during this work, and the whole point of this was that during this work of the hermit is the period of time where we go inside and we decide who's doing that wanting, so that I can appreciate the have. If the ego wants something and instead you get what you want instead of what it wants, there's discord. If you want something and you get what the ego wants, there's discord. It's an idea of letting there be a conversation between those two things, and that you agree upon what it is that you want, or you tell it to shut the fuck up and take agency back from the part of your heart that won't listen when you're like, no, I want to be happy. And yes, this person provides something to me that makes me want them or be defined by them, or to give myself this false pleasure. But are you fulfilled? And so instead it's like, yo, I'm going to refresh who I think I am. I'm going to do the work here and say enough. At the end of the day, what is it that I actually want? Not what I think my ego wants. Here's a story, and then I'm gonna end the stream. I was a little kid. I was sitting around a table with my dad and a couple of buddies of his. They're drinking their beers after a ball game, and I'm watching this happen. And the waitress comes up to ask us what we want, and the guy orders, and his buddy orders, and it gets to my dad. And my dad says, yeah, I want a burger super rare. Like I want it to bleed. Put it on 10 seconds, flip it over, give it to me. Like he was being very dramatic that he wanted this burger to be really rare, right? So then it got to me. It's my turn to order. So now, oh wow, listen, the man ordered a rare hamburger, so that's what I need. I'm a man. I want to be a man. I'm a little squirt. I'm probably 6 years old. And so I order a rare burger. So it comes to me, what would you like? Yeah, I want a rare hamburger. My dad, without even looking at me, looks at the waitress, puts his hand down like this, looks at the waitress and says, he doesn't want that. What did he say? Whatever it was. Get him a turkey sandwich and some french fries, right? And I was this big. Crushed. Here I am in this room full of men. I got two buddies with my dads and my dad, and they're like superheroes. I'm a 6-year-old and these are men. And they're baseball players and they're drinking beer and like, you know, that whole thing. So long story short, I felt this big like I wasn't even a man, right? And so that hurt. Now, my father had no idea, and his intent, which I learned later, had nothing to do with insulting me or willfully making me feel small. It was a totally different reason, which I'll get to. So then now, some time passed, and I spent a lot of time of my youth with my grandparents. My dad worked a lot. My mom was not in the picture, and I lived with my grandparents on weekends and stuff. And we would go out to eat. And the next time I went out to eat with my grandparents to a diner, guess what I ordered? Anyone in the room want to guess? A bloody rare hamburger. It was gross. It wasn't even hot, and it was like pink. Like, it was awful. It was mushy, and I choked it down because, man, I eat rare burgers. And I ate rare burgers for 30 years. So dumb. Until I had a self-discovery, and I had this moment of realization of, like, I don't like rare meat. Why am I doing this? And then it dawned on me, I did the work. And I looked back and I remembered that moment, and it was like, holy shit, I've been choking down rare meat for 35 years because my father ordered a burger, and I felt little when he said he didn't want that. So now it's funny because I remembered the moment. And I called my father, and I'm like, hey, Dad, I had this memory. Oh, I remember that. And he did. And he said, yeah, dude, I knew you weren't going to like rare meat. It's gross. Like, it's like drinking beer as a child. It's disgusting. I don't even like beer as an adult, frankly. I'm not a beer person. But anyway, though, it formed my behavior, this little act, right? And who did the wanting? And who was the one making the decisions there? Because it wasn't me. I didn't have agency. I was working on trying to impress, a couple of strangers and my father, who, I wasn't going to impress my dad by eating rare meat. He knew who I was, and he's either going to be proud or not based on whatever, has nothing to do with what I eat. But the point here is authenticity. And the fact is that I spent a long time choking down food I didn't like for a stupid reason. Right? And that's important, that you have that agency, because what happens here is you put out authenticity, you put out the real you, and so you begin to attract what those people want. And so your job is to find out, what's your burger? What's the thing that back in your day you said, hey, I need to create this behavior because people are going to see it and like. Because that's not you. And that's one of the things that needs to change, that's been constantly spinning during this problems that you've been having with love. All right? So that's my answer there. And you can expand on that further. There's typically 2 or 3 of those burger moments in all of our lives. And we have to think about, what are those moments, because they form our personality. We do that, don't we? We spend most of our lives, well, I don't even know if that's 100% true about, say, losing yourself. It's almost like we never are ourselves to begin with, so we didn't lose it. We just never allowed it to be, because we're always busy kind of being something else. Now, here's the magic. Hello, Luana. Here's the magic of the idea here of losing yourself. You can't lose yourself, because yourself doesn't exist. You are who you decide you are right now, and in 10 seconds you're going to decide to be somebody else, and we're all pretending. Stop pretending that you're not. I'll admit it if you do. So you can't lose a self that doesn't exist. You get to create that self at every moment. That's the truth, right? And so that's magic. That's power. And now, more important than that is to do the work internally to decide what that is actual. So now you can create, because that's what you're doing anyway, create a self that is more attuned to who you really are at your core and at your character. And that work is really powerful, really important, and none of us do it. People will live 80 years and die never knowing who they are, choking down rare hamburgers with bad relationships. Or we can put that work in, learn who we are, and give ourselves what we need. And the way we do that is we stop reflecting the universe and we start casting our own light that draws the attention of the people that belong in our lives. That's the work. That's your answer, okay? And if you do that, love is like the first thing that you're going to get. Now you have the frickin' momentum of the universe behind you. There's no way you can fail when you're swimming with the river, right? Like, you can even lean back and just be carried by it. You don't even have to work when you're being authentic, because the universe just provides. That's not a religious statement. That's the reality of science. If you're a ball, you're going to want to roll downhill, right? It's very, very simple how to move those trajectories. People who study Aikido know that as well, about moving and using their motion and gravity so that the motion it's effortless. to throw a 300-pound person across the room, right? Great. Luana gets it. So, okay. Now, I am absolutely brain fried. It's been a 3-hour stream, and I spent 5 hours at my church writing bylaws. If anyone hasn't done that, don't. There's a reason that you can elect or say no to positions in churches, and writing bylaws is not fun. Truth be told, I just kind of was at the end, helped, and it was a lot. A bulk of the work was done by others. So that said, though, I'm done. My brain's cooked. I need to sleep. I had an amazing stream tonight, and I appreciate everybody. And I really encourage you, if you just joined, to at least watch the first 20 minutes of the stream, because there's not readings, but the lesson is crazy powerful and is an important lesson in why are there 22 cards, what are these numbers, and what do they actually matter. And it's not a wacky kind of numerology thing. It's actually science, and how the tarot is an actual empirical device for reflecting the world we live in. So thank you to everyone who came in. If I wasn't able to get to you for a reading, all I need is your birthday in the comments, month and day. That'll let me locate your birth card, or you can use the wheel now. I'll leave it up for a bit. Locate your birth card, put it in the comments, and I will give you a free reading, I promise, okay? Okay. You're so welcome, AJ. And now I'm also going to leave the stream up. Okay, so you can go back and watch this anytime. You wake up tomorrow and you want to, go back. And now, if you notice here too as well, that's one of the reasons I put the names up, so you can kind of flip through till you see AJ, and then you can, All right, so anybody else as well. I stream once a day. I try to, if not 6 times a week, usually 7, but if not 6. I put 4 readings a day up on the channel for love, pets, general reading, and a birthday reading. So if today's your birthday, then check that out. And otherwise, I'll catch everyone else on a stream. And please put your birthday in the comments, and you'll get a free reading. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next time. And have a great night. Thank you, everyone, for joining tonight.